Today we're going to start our radial painting, and we are going to start with a monochrome pie. So if you think about your color wheel, it's not the color changing in this little pie, it's just the value changing. You're either creating tints or tones. And you can do really cool things with monochromes, like landscapes or portraits, among any other content, but it just is a really neat effect. It creates a lot of mood depending on which color you choose to work with. All right, for today, we are going to work on just a single pie. We're going to start with monochrome. It's a great way to really understand value. So I have my pie, I have my wheel, it's all traced out, and I have everything labeled. And then here is my monochrome. And I'm going to do blue for my monochrome. So mono, meaning one, chrome is color. So one color, and then it's tints and tones. So obviously I'm going to need a bunch of blue on my palette. So I want you guys to think about, you want to have as many values of whatever color you're working with as you can on your palette before you get started. So here is my blue. And now I'm going to make my tone for blue. So to make the tone of blue, I need its opposite. So I'm going to need to mix up a whole bunch of orange. And of course, to make orange, I need yellow and red. Yellow is a little on the weak side, so I'm going to have plenty of yellow there. And remember that when you're mixing tones, you need to start with a really even complement. Like my orange needs to be like a really even orange. It shouldn't be tertiary, because if it is, it will make my tone a weird color. So that's pretty good orange. There's just a smidge more red. And I will add a little bit of that to my blue. So now I have a tone of blue. And then I'm actually going to put another little bit of that tone into another palette space. And I'm going to water it down a whole bunch. And that can be my tint. If you happen to have yellow, you could also do your tint that way as well. You can make a tone and then add white to it, and then that is also a tint. And then you can have a regular tint. So those were tones, and then I made a tint out of my tone. But then I can just take full force blue, and I could also add white to that. And that's even one more variation. So that's 4 different blues I have right there. And I could make even a very, very pale one. I could even have a slightly darker one. So right there, I have 5 different blues, and I have regular blue. So now I look at my monochrome section, and we could work. You can either take your paint right off the palette and put it on the paper, or you could use a wash if you want to get a nice gradient. So a wash is when I take my water and I very carefully apply it to the section in which I want my paint to go. So it's just clear water. And I am being pretty careful about where I put it. I want my edges to be really clean, because wherever I put my wash is where my paint will follow. And the reason why people like washes is, one, it makes your paint look really even if you want that, or you can get a really nice gradient, like a fade in your paint. And you get this kind of nice bleeding of the pigment. So if I wanted to make it look like it fades from the center out, I could do my wash like that. Pull it down. And if you like this, if you want to try this, I would probably practice it on a little scrap of paper first, because it can be a little tricky. So now, one of the most important things is to never paint two spaces that are side by side while they're both wet. So I want you to jump around your surface. Someone's mowing the lawn outside my window, so it's a little loud, sorry. So I'm going to go ahead, and this one I won't do a wash so you can see the difference. This one I'm just going to paint right in to that space. And I'm leaving that white area in between, because watercolor, it's super important that they have dry time. If you're impatient and you paint the whole thing at once, you're just going to get a big muddy mess. So now I'll wash my brush again, and I'll pick a different version of blue, and I'll paint this really bright blue. So I want you guys to change up your value as much as you can. Ideally, you have no repeats, which would be pretty impressive. Some of you have more complicated designs, so you probably will need to repeat at least one time per value. It gets easier when you have multiple colors, because monochrome in some ways is probably the hardest one, because you're trying to make a million, little values of just one color. But when you have multiple colors, you won't have to worry about it as much. So I'm going to make this one super pale. And notice I chose another space that doesn't interact with the areas that are already wet. So now I'll use this really watered down one. So this one doesn't have white in it, but it's very, very pale because it has very little pigment. And I think I could probably get a browner tone as well. So maybe I'll mix a little more orange into it and get an even, turned a little on the green side, so I'm going to add just a smidge more blue. And even though this sounds weird, I'm going to add a little red to balance out that original orange. There we go. So now let's see, I have one more space I can paint. So I mixed up all these beautiful blues, and I don't want them to go to waste, even though I'm done working on my monochrome for now. So what you can do is, because you have the rest of your wheel labeled, just go around and look for everywhere else you can use blue. So the one that I see right away here is my cool colors. So I'll go in and I'll paint in as many of those cool color sections as I can. And then I will probably stop for today. I'm going to go ahead and pause my video, one, because of the lawnmower across the street. Also, I'll just kind of fast forward to show you where I'm ending today. I'll end in this cool area. And I want you to really take advantage of that. So you mix up all your values and you paint them everywhere on your wheel that you can, always leaving a space in between for dry time. And then, like if I had done orange, for example, I could have used that in many pies. So I would have just kind of jumped around until I used up all my values. And that is where we're going to start today.